this recap review of Castle Rock episode 4. So what an amazing episode. I'll break down a few plot points, then move on to the main controversial, Dennis and his killing spree. But I just want to cover off a few characters first before I start talking about Dennis. Okay, so let's start with Henry, our main protagonist. So Henry goes on a journey to visit his father's grave and marks out the grave so they can return his body. So return his body back to the hometown, return his body back to their church. So Henry is accompanied by Alan throughout this. And at this point as well, Henry informs Alan that he wants to move his mother closer to home, so in Texas there, so he can keep an eye on her. During this time as well, we see Henry have multiple flashbacks. So flashbacks to him being abducted and held within a basement. I wonder if this is all misdirection with this, and perhaps this is his father who is in this scene and not some mysterious stranger. So these flashbacks may have also been helped on, or I guess encouraged if you will, by his interactions with Molly Strand. So these flashbacks and these situations spurs Henry on enough to investigate his local archives. So we see him there find a suspect to his own missing persons case. So after he finds this person, does a little bit of investigation, then Henry goes out to investigate alone, which really isn't a smart idea considering the circumstances. But it leads to a very interesting scene. So the whole time that Henry is visiting this house, the scenes with him in it, the scenes with Joseph in it jumps from being in a state of fear, paranoia, and a tense scene, to intrigue and confusion, then back to fear, and back and forth. It really balanced very provocatively on the line between those multiple states. When he's searching the house, and then when Joseph turns up, 1 minute we're feeling quite safe with this character. Next minute we're starting to get a little bit scared for Henry and what's going to happen. And it's funny too because Joseph's motivations are constantly questioned, and that's the whole point of the scene is we're not sure what's going on. But I just thought the scene worked very well, and it was very well delivered and very enjoyable, a very unique scenario. So eventually we see that Henry does get his case files. So he investigates those case files and he goes back to confront his mother and Alan. Both of those confrontations go very badly for Henry. So we have that massive plot reveal there. So Alan says that Henry pushed his father. So Alan worked to help Henry cover up because, I guess, feeling that this child is probably innocent. Maybe he knows more here. But do we believe what Alan has told him? It's definitely possible. We have that heavy suggestion from a few episodes ago that Henry's father was abusive to him. So maybe Henry and Molly made a plan to kill him. And Henry tried and failed, and that's why Molly finished the job. Because they just wanted to stop the abuse, because if you remember, Molly feels what he feels at that point. So after all this situation plays out, Henry is demoralized by both the interaction with his mother and Alan. So Henry visits Molly and they get together. But ultimately, the whole situation here, the whole circumstances that have changed, really make Henry want to get out of Castle Rock. So Henry rings poor old Dennis and tells him, we're going to accept the deal. We're not going to bother with court. I'm getting out of here. Which of course has dramatic consequences. But before I speak about Dennis, I just want to mention one more character scene. So when Reeves goes into the prison to scare the unknown prisoner, or the kid as they call it. Initially I thought Reeves was going to be a real one-dimensional character. But I really did like that scene, how Reeves kind of comes in acting very professional, then all of a sudden starts being very dark and threatening, but only to get completely shot down and pretty much turn and run, making this scene, whilst very comical, but also a very threatening scene. So once again, it was a good balance in there, kind of similar to the other one. Okay, now let's move on to Dennis. From the very first scene with Dennis in this episode to the very end, I thought the director did a fantastic job. The intro scene, that soundtrack really portrayed a man at the end of his tether, a man at the bottom of his barrel. His last hope of getting out of that place was with Henry and the kid. So the soundtracks, the audio itself, the cinematography really shined with this character and these scenes. I was really impressed. Just simple things. Example here would be when Dennis is listening to the voice message from Henry. The sound all stopped in the entire episode when he hung up the phone. It was just that suggestion there that that's his breaking point, and I thought that was fantastic. There's quite a few little things like that throughout the episode with this character. And you also know, when Roy Orbison plays in a prison scene, things are about to get crazy, and it did. And of course, poor old Dennis, one of the most innocent characters, I believe, taken out. I guess though, the whole downfall of this young man. Do we attribute this to depression? The hopelessness of the job he is in? Or is it something else? Is the downfall, is this killing spree he's gone on, is this the evil hand of Castle Rock sculpting his behavior? Or perhaps he was possessed by the unknown prisoner, by the kid, as we did see the event predicted on the cameras a few episodes ago. I'd like to combine them all. I felt his depression left him vulnerable to be influenced by supernatural entities within the circumstances he finds himself in. So I'll just leave it at that. But anyway, another top-notch episode. The season is going very well, many unknowns to find out. Standout for me, really, in this episode was the audio track and the audio itself and the cinematography around Dennis. Just kind of depicting his mental state. I thought that was very cool, very well done. And of course, the demise of Dennis, his actual breakdown sequence was very interesting and a lot of fun as well, whilst obviously very dark and dramatic. Anyway, how about you? Are you still enjoying the show? Let me know some feedback below. Let me know your favorite parts of this episode. Give me a thumbs up if you like this content, and subscribe for future content around this show and other shows coming up. But until next time, this is Mesh, and I'll see you later.